is generative AI? Well, I asked Google Bard, which is at the time it was Google Bard. Now it's called Google Gemini. But well, what does it think it is? And generative AI idea is it is a subset of artificial intelligence or AI, but it's more concentrated on creating new content versus analyzing existing numeric or structural data. That's traditional AI. But in this case, we're generating new content, and it most often is things like text, images, music, or even now videos. You've seen some of the videos that are now being created. They're trained on large data sets of existing data, and it's usually going out and finding things on the web. And that is part of the issue in some of these things. You know, what data is it training on? And the intellectual property issues come in, and there's lawsuits now that, hey, you trained on my data, or you trained on my piece of art. And if you're an artist, and now it's creating art that's based on something I did. So that is an issue. But basically, they're generating new content in either of those modes. They call them the modality, text, images, music, or video.
The next one is in invoice reconciliation. You could probably imagine at a utility company with pipes and fittings and wires and all of the different materials that we have to order, all of the different contractors and services that we have. When we get an invoice, it's a very manually intensive process in order to reconcile the invoice for what was stated in the contract. And right now we're going through proof of concepts in a couple different areas to perhaps automate a lot of that reconciliation. That should save pretty much thousands and thousands of man hours going through invoice reconciliation. Our regulatory team gets lots of different data requests, and they have to do lots of research. It's actually the same for our legal team here at SoCalGas. And we're enabling and empowering them to do research a lot faster on a corpus of hundreds of thousands of documents that they would have to otherwise search manually. And then in I guess on the lighter side, it's not necessarily as much commercial grade, is survey research. So there's a lot of surveys, like even after this webinar, if a survey goes out, what did you like about the webinar? What are things that we can do to improve? We can use generative AI to summarize what are the top 3 things that people really want to see different or improved the next time we do something like this. We administer surveys all over the company for lots of different purposes, just in the spirit of continuously improving the offerings that we have. So
the 6 use cases that you see there, those are use cases that the firm has been working with our clients, but also the firm itself has been experimenting with in Gen AI and AI in general for a little while. So obviously recruitment is where it really all started. That's probably the most advanced areas where you're going to see Gen AI used, but being used in training and development. I love that as Rob mentioned, the use case of being able to take online training and put it into different languages that would have been cost prohibitive before. Phenomenal use case for that. Deployment is another one, same idea in recruitment, where you've got a set of capabilities that you're looking, whether it's in career path or succession model. And in the olden days, we would do that by hand, right? In those big sessions where we're trying to figure out, does somebody really have the skills? Gen AI now can really enable, if you've got the data, enable you to be able to look at your job descriptions and what you're really wanting, even on the behavioral side, against the folks that you have. Again, the more data, the better. And this is really something that's more on the horizon. In performance management, helping to analyze goals, helping to create, verbiage that you would use in a performance evaluation. helping to, um, to coach managers. Engagement and satisfaction, the use there is really in helping the qualitative data, which I know a lot of us, as we've used engagement and satisfaction surveys, we'll look at the quantitative, but this really enables you to get to a point where you're asking the open-ended questions that before maybe we were afraid to do, because how do you analyze that? And then in HR operations and HRIS. And one just quick example there that PwC did was we created a layer for the firm, a layer between our employees and our various HRIS systems and all the databases, so that our folks could, in an app, query it. They don't know that it's going through about 3 or 4, gathering data from 3 or 4 different places, and can tell them information very easily on an app that otherwise it would, probably take a call to HR to get.
I started out probably like Rob. I was much more interested in predictive. I've been in Fortune 500 companies for about 20 years, and I jumped in from my neural mesh background and said, I'm going to use this to do some forecast. And really, what do you trust, right? What black box do you trust? And what I found was the qualitative, the labels, those kind of things, still in the generative AI, were probably the best places to use the tool, at least a couple of years ago. And so these are the kind of things we do. The top 3 or more from a reliability, engineering background, maintenance management background, infrastructure background. Those are kind of the 3 things we do with it from that perspective, my little company now. And really where we've found the bang for the buck as a small company is in helping us draft documents, review draft documents, edit documents, and then do the visuals. We've been able to create some really cool visuals, like with tools like Midjourney, even actual photographs, and kind of protect the innocent, so to speak, and change some things around. So it's been very helpful from that way.
Southern California Edison obviously is focused around safety. What we do is extremely dangerous work for our utility linemen, because they have to work with energized lines when they're doing maintenance and repairs. And so the reason why we work with energized lines is because if we were to de-energize it to make it completely safe for maintenance and repair, our customers would probably not be happy with an outage. So with that said, our focus is how can we use Gen AI to help complement what our employees are working to help make our environment safer for our utility craft crew. So that was our #1 focus. We use generative AI with the purpose of understanding that it can never replace a human because it does not have emotional intelligence. We know that we need human conversation. We also know that around safety, life happens for our craft crew. Births of children, sleep deprivation, vacations, the passing of family members. All of these emotions take a toll when you're expected to do the most hazardous type of repair. So with that, the human side of it is that we talk around safety, and we know what is going on with our team, especially foremen know very well what their team is. So with generative AI, it helps complement safety around the work that they're doing. And we, as I mentioned before, we purposefully have our AI governance team, not only for policy and compliance, but we also want to make sure that our focus is not to replace anyone. Our focus is what tools can we provide to, again, embrace a cleaner energy type of environment for the state of California, and also to share what our mission and vision is for all utility companies, not just in the US, but around the world. What we've done is we've built, through predictive analytics, we have taken a lot of our data, specifically work orders, and we have made sure that in those 5 years of historical work orders that we used Python coding very early on. We started this project, and I'll transition quickly into probably change management as well as trust. With that said, we knew that we needed to find a way to read the data and to tell a story. Why are we averaging 2 to 3 fatalities a year? What can we do? What does this story around these scenarios of these fatalities, how can we use this information and build trust within our culture, and also make sure that whatever we're building in predictive analytics, that it is accurate. And so we went into Python coding. We took 5 years of historical work orders, and we wanted to provide information to our utility linemen about the risks surrounding the work that they're about to do. So that really was, how do we build that trust? My approach to that was to take the very first version of our predictive model, which we knew was terrible, but the intent was, let's go and do a road show with all our utility linemen from different regions, mountainous, desert, city. They all have different challenges. And let's ask them, what would you want as a checklist to help complement your expertise, to help complement and mitigate those risks around the dangerous work you're about to do? And fast forward, with all of that information in our road shows, which we took a year to really understand, we started building a predictive model that flagged a work order that had similar attributes as to one that was associated to a fatality. It stamped the work order. It provided information to our utility line crew. It did not tell them how to do the work. It did not tell them what they needed to do. It provided them sound safety information so they can work around those hazards and make mitigations. And that helped build trust. And also, we as data scientists, my partner and I, made sure that whatever was output at least had an 80% area under the curve. In layman's terms, 80% of the time it was pretty accurate. As this took about probably a little over a year to build trust with our culture, and they had skin in the game because they were very much involved in building that model. And we wanted to make it easy. We didn't want to make them have to push a button, generate a report. It was already information that we leverage with what is given to them before they commence the work. So that's how we built a safety culture and also made sure that it was sustainable and adoptable.
Question that Laurent asked was, have you noticed Gen AI replacing software or people? I'd like to think about that slightly differently. Either the real or the perceived, I'm going to lose my job if I embrace this kind of world. How big a deal is that for organizations to pay attention to?
Oh, it's the number one biggest fear, I would say. It's like, we're the boogeyman. And so with that, I feel that I was very fortunate. I have almost 30 years at Southern California Edison. So I had trust with our craft crew. So if you can find someone of influence that the craft trusts, then I would really focus on making sure to have them on your team as you start to build conversations around how can we embrace innovation in a way that aligns with our mission in keeping all of our employees safe, as well as embracing a clean future. So my number one is build a strong team with a bunch of influencers who understand what the intent is, and that it is not to replace jobs, but to help complement what they're doing and creating safety measures.